No, it's not. It's not a horror story. The story itself, like the canon, like our canon, is sad. Uh, the link to our YouTube is in the bio of our TikTok. Our TikTok is linked in the bio of our Twitch up here. It's batim underscore roleplay underscore channel, something like that. Uh, yeah, season 1A is a little confusing. Don't judge the roleplay off the pilot. Uh, oh no, not the feels! Yeah, straight for the feels. Um, so the story goes, it's a very long, confusing story, but from what you can gather from season 1A, without, like, knowing the overarching story, is that Alice has no idea what's going on. Alison is barely there, but she's a friend. Bendy and Alice hang out all the time. Bendy is in love with Alice. Alice is slowly falling for Bendy. And then they get together. And then all hell breaks loose. In a nutshell. Yes, there is a plot twist. The plot twist is there's time travel involved. And I'm just gonna write off the original voice I did for Bendy as a different version of Bendy. Because I didn't find my voice for Bendy yet. So, first, it was just like this, I guess. Now it is more defined and interesting to listen to. More entertaining. That is awful. Voice crack, oh my gosh. Is more entertaining. Yeah. Uh, yeah, and Alice's voice and Susie's voice have all changed. Um, Susie is the like lower version of my voice when I'm not trying to distinguish Alice or Allison. Allison is this high voice, and my friends are all mean to me. And Alice is like an impression of my voice, and Susie likes to take over Alice a lot. So Susie is a ghost that Benny and Alice befriended in the original timeline. And she turned out to be evil and possesses Alice. Possesses, because she still does. She possessed Alice, and thus this like cycle thing, I guess you can call it, began. I'm calling it a cycle because Bendy and Sammy Lawrence and Allison all go back in time many times, and to a point where they're in a timeline like loop thing that every time they go back in time, it's always the same, meaning Bendy and Alice are the only people in the studio at some point, aside from Allison and Sammy Lawrence. Bendy and Alice always end up together. They're always like adventuring. Allison is, I don't know. Allison's relationship with Bendy and Alice varies from timeline to timeline. Like in one, she's hated. Like they just hate her. In another, Alice and Allison are best friends or best buds. And in another, or I don't know, a different one, Bendy and Allison are like siblings. Chaotic sibling energy. Yeah. And Susie, on and off, is evil. Um, Sometimes she plots against Bendy and Alice, other times she's just kind of there. Uh, in the original timeline, Bendy and Alice had ghost friends, and other friends that are not important because they're not canon to anything else. And I mean that as in, like, there are other people there. It's just we're not going to bring them up again because I probably can't design them on on here, but the friends are the daycare attendant from FNAF, my other TikTok account is Syncra Solstice Solar or something like that, FNAF. Um, and that is what we call TikTok FNAF. We as in me. That's what I call TikTok FNAF. And that is concerning Sunray and Moonfall. Those are the two other friends that are not really canon to anything else. Now, I think the... I don't really reveal a lot of the plot to you guys, because I want it to be like an open book. You guys can figure it out. Like, you guys as an audience. Good, move over, Wednesday Adams. Yeah. I really want people to theorize on this. Like, I really want people to get into this series and to theorize. It's kind of confusing, but I at first thought that I was gonna do Season 1B, like, Rick and Morty way of explaining things, like, different Ricks and Mortys going on different adventures, and we don't know which one is the one we know, like, C-137 or something. And we kind of did that for a little bit in Season 1A, where Bendy went back in time, and we don't know. The connection quality is probably not good right now. That's fantastic. So last time I did that, I lost an entire episode! Which, that's fun! Sometimes I will reveal some lore through like the little videos. One of them being Bendy's past with Joey Drew, and like the manipulation and like partially Alice's backstory that has nothing to do with Susie, because at some point in the beginning she's convinced that she was Susie Campbell, but that is a thought that Susie put in her head, and it just continues throughout this new timeline. So basically, because time travel is involved, this shit is so confusing. Yes, we do curse 18 and older. Mostly because I don't want minors on my channel. At least till they're like 17 or 18. I say 17 because that's when I started, like, this whole thing. Sweet, cool. So pertaining to time travel, like how this just became a podcast episode. Yes, this is now, voice thoughts. With your host, Solar Sammy, otherwise known as the voice of Bendy, Alice, and Alison in our roleplay. Responding to comments. So, the timeline makes everything more confusing. Just... This is mostly because when I had finished filming Season 1A, I was frustrated that I had not pushed Season 1, because this was initially Season 1 and 2, now it's just Season 1A and Season 1B. I hadn't pushed Season 1 for like 100 episodes. Instead, I had only made like 34 episodes. And that was just uploading one episode per week, or like per 5 days, per 7 days. And now we upload every every day, if I can, like if I have content set aside and scheduled. It will be at 10 a.m., 12 p.m., and 2 p.m. Central Time. Yeah. Back on the timeline, topic. Sorry, we do that. In the beginning, Bendy and Alice didn't know each other. They met when Alice, started working at the studio for Joey Drew, and then things started to take a dark turn. This is where my story kinda gets a little fuzzy because I keep changing things, because we don't really have a solid idea like put in place, like concrete for this. So this might change in the future, but as of right now, in January, wow, no, it's February, oh my gosh, February 2023, Alice started working for Joey Drew's studios. Okay, Bendy had already, like, been pulled out of the ink at this point. Something I do want to mention is Bendy does have a soul. And that is because, I don't know, just, he does. Doesn't matter if somebody died for it, doesn't matter if, like, he was his own person. He doesn't think he was his own person, but he does have a soul. I don't know, he might have just been created with a soul in it, I don't know. Alice was not Susie Campbell. Alice was Alice. No last name given. Not that Bendy can remember. Let's just come up with something like, Alice Lesnemy. Or like, Alice Naomi, or something like that. I don't know. I'll write that down because it's a pretty good idea. Helped Bendy understand what was going on, and then they were both against what was going on. Or something, I don't know. So Alice and Bendy meet for the first time. Alice is human. Bendy is, I don't know, an ink creature. In this universe, in our, version, the ink demon is an insult. Like, he called himself the ink demon for a little while because he felt like that's what he was, not who he was, what he was. Because of Joey and everything that happened, he blamed himself. As time goes on in the roleplay, you'll see that when Susie calls him the ink demon, he is like, don't call me that. It's like, refrain from saying my name, refrain from saying my title, just don't say it. It's like, don't call me that. And at some point, he just disassociates himself with it. And now he's just Bendy the ink creature. When, like, all that was going on with Joey Drew, Bendy was, manipulated into going to fetch Alice, human Alice, and he ended up, like, playing a twisted game of hide and seek that's scarred him for life. I don't know all the details yet, but Alice ends up being, killed, by Joey Drew. Bendy doesn't kill Alice, Joey Drew does. That I want to make abundantly clear. Bendy doesn't blame himself for her death until later on when he starts thinking about it and realizing what actually happened. Because, like, he knows what's going on, he doesn't really realize what's going on, what he's doing. He's just kind of, like, crazy. Or, like, it looks and, like, seems like he's half crazed or something. And then, Joey Drew manipulated Bendy into chasing down Alice, even though he didn't want to. Is, like, Joey Drew knew about Alice and Bendy. Like, they had already, like, fallen in love with each other or something. Or at least Bendy did. And Joey was using that as blackmail towards him. I'm bad at explaining things. And then Alice is pulled from the ink some days, some later. And Bendy ends up with Alice's ink certificate. Uh, just like stashes it somewhere or something. And he leaves or something to go to another level. Years pass. I don't know what happens to Alice between then. She's like, I don't know if she like dies or something, but she's summoned by Sammy Lawrence back to the studio, or at least like to the level that we know is called the ritual room, or I think we call it the ritual room. And then Bendy encounters her because in the original timeline, Alice wakes up in the ritual room. Nobody's there. She goes searching throughout the studio and ends up on level 3. In our version, level 3 is Bendy's domain. Nobody else goes there. And by this point, he's already made a name for himself, the one that he hates, but just sticks with because it works. He's already friends with Alison at this point, the perfect version of Alice, but she and Alice have nothing against each other.